Hey there, good morning. Hope you're enjoying this beautiful Monday so far. My name is Lindy Galt and I am a fitness and nutrition coach, and I wanted to come live this morning to share a little bit more about the things that I've been doing with my nutrition that I've changed recently. I've been alluding to this a lot. I've been sharing little bits of information here as well as on my page. And I am officially sharing with everyone today that I have transitioned totally to a low carb, high fat diet, and I am loving it. I have not felt this good in a long time. I am seeing changes in my body that I haven't seen in a long time. I've broken through plateaus, and like I said, I feel so much better. I've gotten rid of chronic pain. I have more energy, all of that kind of stuff. And what I wanted to share with you today is the skinny on eating more fat and kind of kicking the carb addiction, which is what I did. And any of you who know me, you know that I have been addicted to carbs my whole life. My family jokes about it because there's a story that they tell that when I was, I don't know how old I was. I was before teenage years, but we went out to Red Lobster for lunch, and this was back when Red Lobster handed out those cheesy garlic biscuits that they give out now. They used to ration them to you basically, and we were all eating lunch there after church on a Sunday afternoon, and I had one of those on my plate, and someone at the table knocked over their drink, and it spilled, over the table, and I literally pushed my chair back, and I'm in my Sunday dress, and I say, "My roll!" And the waiter burst out laughing and said, "You could ruin your Sunday dress, but you're worried about saving your roll." And it's been a running joke in my family ever since, because that's how I've always been. I've always been a carb addict. And I really thought when I started learning about this kind of eating that it would be impossible for me to do, because that's how much I love sugar and I love my carbs. And I thought it would be a really hard transition. And I have learned that it's actually quite a bit easier than I ever thought it would be. And one of the reasons that it's easier is because of how good it makes me feel, and because of the results that I saw pretty quickly. And I'm going to share that a photo of those results later this week, because I actually didn't believe it until I actually saw the photo. But what I wanted to share with you today is a little bit about why I decided to make this transition and how I'm helping other people to do the same, because that's the next step that I'm taking. I never want to promote something or showcase something that I haven't done for myself first, because I like to learn from experience. And so I've been doing this over the last 4 weeks, and I'm getting ready to start sharing it with a lot more people. In fact, a bunch of coaches on my team are going to be some of the first people who kind of test this out for themselves, because I think that that's what people need to do is test it out for themselves and see if it's right for them. But I'm going to be introducing a new program that'll be one of my online programs that I run regularly that will be solely focused on learning low carb, high fat, and trying to decide if it's right for you. And so today what I wanted to share was just a little bit about why I personally now believe that this is the way we should eat. So first of all, humans evolved over hundreds of millions of years as hunters and gatherers, where we ate, what we were able to get from the land. And that was not a large amount of carbohydrates. We ate things by hunting and fishing and gathering edible foods. And those foods did not include pure starch in the form of breads and pastas and rice and potatoes. They just weren't available to us back then. And then, we evolved, and through the Industrial Revolution, that brought us our country, the ability to manufacture large amounts of pure sugar and white flour and all kinds of carbohydrates that we then began eating all the time, because they were available to us all the time. And then in the 80s, our country went through the low fat craze, and the fear of fat gripped the Western world, and we all went to low fat eating. And that is where I grew up. I grew up in that low fat phase where everything we were eating was low fat and diet and reduced fat and fat free, all of those kinds of things. But the thing is, if you eat less fat, you have to eat more carbs in order to feel satisfied. Anybody else ever felt that way? I know that I have felt that way. I have literally, I can remember in high school sitting down and eating an entire box of Snackwell chocolate chip cookies. Why? because they were low fat and they never filled me up. I just kept eating them. So if you eat less fat, you actually have to eat more, generally more carbohydrates, in order to feel satisfied. And at that time in our history, when this low fat, trend took place, that's when obesity started to rise. And so now the most fat phobic country in the world, America, is the most obese country in the world. I think there's probably a connection there. What do you think? And so there is a problem in our society and in our diet and in our foods with sugar and starch. We are way too heavy in sugar and starch. And I know those things taste good. They taste good because we're addicted to them. I know that I have been throughout my life in different waves, but even in my last 10 years of being a fitness and nutrition professional, I have still justified always having those carbs and starches in my diet. I either justified them by saying I've worked out enough, I've earned eating this because I exercise enough, or I'm not worried if I eat this because I'm going to exercise and I'm going to burn it off. Or just the fact that I wanted to justify that I wanted to maintain healthy carbs in my diet. And there are healthy carbs, but they're not necessarily grains, is what I have really learned. So all digestible carbohydrates, what you guys need to know is that they're broken down into simple sugars inside your intestines. So basically all carbs are turned into sugar in your body, absorbed in the blood, and then it raises blood glucose levels. And that increases the production of the hormone insulin, which is our fat storing hormone. Okay? So I'm just trying to make this connection of how carbs play a role in the issue that maybe you have been having with the inability to lose weight or lose fat. And I know that that was something that I was up against, even with the number of workouts that I'm doing regularly and the clean diet that I was eating. I was still struggling with those sorts of things. But on the other hand, if you have a very low intake of carbohydrates and a higher intake of fat, it gives you a more stable blood sugar and it lowers the amounts of insulin in your body, and that increases the release of fat from your fat stores and your fat burning potential in your body, which usually leads to fat loss, especially around your belly, abdominal areas. So the reason that I finally made a switch officially and decided to go ahead and say this, because it's interesting how many people are like into this right now, but also are skeptical of it, or saying you shouldn't eat this way, or it's bad for you, or whatever. You shouldn't, eliminate carbs and that kind of thing. And I'll get into that more in future videos. But the reason that I really made a transition to this is because of that, because I was noticing I was finally able to reduce weight and reduce fat, and more control over what I was eating. And really, a low carb, high fat diet makes it easier for the body to use its fat reserves, because you start to burn fat since you no longer have that sugar and glucose so readily available to you. So the result in eating higher fat and lower carb is that you're not thinking about food all the time, because fat keeps you full a lot longer than other foods do. And because of that, you're not thinking about food all the time. Your cravings are reduced. You're naturally eating less, which means less calories without actually having to count tons of calories, because you're just naturally eating less because you're not hungry all the time, because the fat is keeping you full. And the result of all of those things is weight loss and a transformation in your body. So that is why I have made the decision to do this. If you are somebody who would be interested in learning more about this and in how I've made that switch, because it can be a little confusing and a little overwhelming, and I've really kind of figured out how to master choosing my foods throughout the day, I'm going to be sharing that in my next online program, which is going to start up on June 5th. And I'm already talking to actually a couple hundred people who are interested in learning more about this. And if you're not a member of one of my informational groups and you want to be, please shoot me a note or comment below and I'll put you in there, because I'm sharing just some of this general information to help you learn a little bit more about it and decide if it's something that you want to look into. But I am developing a program that I'm going to do that's going to revolve around teaching people how to do this, because it's not something that can just be done overnight, especially if you're somebody who is hooked on carbs and sugar, which I know how that feels. But if you're interested in that, let me know. And that is the skinny on why I am eating more fat and have transitioned to a lower carb, higher fat diet. All right, thanks you guys for watching. I hope you have a great day. Again, if you have questions, please post them below or shoot me a message. I'd be happy to talk to you. I'm excited about this. I'm more excited about this and how I feel and what it's doing for me than I have been about anything in a really long time, and I'm excited to share it with you. Have a good day.